G'day everyone and welcome to Heat Check for another big week in Aussie hoops. Our hoopers doing great things around the globe and it is time to get the thermometers out and we are here to check the heat. My name is Joel Peterson. Michael Houben from basketball.com.au and Airtime Scouting is alongside me. G'day Mick, good to see you.
Really good to see you too. Been a big week.
Big question for you right off the top. This is the question that everyone's asking at the moment. Michael Houben, where and when do you play domestic basketball?
I'm glad everyone's been asking. I play to this day Nunawading Basketball Stadium Thursday nights.
All right, I was more of a Monday night Bendigo Stadium operator with absolutely no distinction whatsoever. We asked that question because domestic basketball in Melbourne's been in the news this week and for all the right reasons. Because one Josh Giddey rolled out on Monday at the Frankston Basketball Stadium. This would not have been on the bingo card of many people there. This was quite fun to see.
Imagine having a long day at work, you drag yourself to your late night basketball game and Josh Giddey's there suiting up the starting point guard for the Chicago Bulls. Would have been a lot of fun, a bit of bragging rights for everyone involved and for Josh as well, a bit of a rare occurrence, right? He's a free agent, means he's a free man, and apparently he's a rec league basketball player now as well.
New management at the Chicago Bulls as well. What do you reckon they would have thought seeing that?
Yeah, I don't think it's probably the best look. I think Josh is probably not too stoked that the footage got out as far and wide as it did. But, I think he just had his minutes loaded and, took it a little bit easy. It was all right.
It didn't look like it was a super high intensity from him. It does remind us a little bit of a few years ago when one Ben Simmons rolled out for Diamond Valley. Now, camera phones have come a long way between 2017 and 2025. It looked a little bit different. Let's take a look when that happened. So that, we are told, is the vague outline of Ben Simmons playing for Diamond Valley. So there is a little bit of a history with some of our top basketballers playing at the domestic level.
That's right. Filmed by a potato, apparently. But, from what I'm told, Diamond Valley, play for the Diamond Valley Splashes. A very prestigious organisation from what I'm aware of them.
Time honoured.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when I see these guys play in these rec league games, it makes me think of this Brian Scalabrine quote, the great Brian Scalabrine. He said, "I'm closer to LeBron than you are to me." And of course, both these guys have had much more storied careers already than, the White Mamba has. But that being said, when I see this, it just reminds me how supernatural these guys' basketball abilities are compared to, you and me.
Yeah, going at 25% and Josh Giddey's just waltzing around doing whatever he wanted. Now, your Thursday night team at Nunawading, do you need a fill-in?
Look, we do need to fill in. Josh, look, I'm not giving up the point guard, ball handling opportunity, but there is a uniform available for you. So, reach out.
We look forward to seeing whether Josh can make himself available. Of course, he's been in Adelaide watching the Boomers in the last little while. He might put up some big numbers if he comes and plays for your team at Nunawading. I tell you who has been putting up big numbers. Jack Purchase. 55 points in the NBL 1 South for the mighty Melbourne Tigers. They've already had Tom Wilson drafted to the NBL ranks this off-season, and now he has broken the all-time NBL 1 scoring record.
Brought out the absolute flamethrower on the weekend. 10 threes from behind the arc. He loves this pull-up in the mid-range as well, turning over at 6'9". So hard to contest that shot. And he's spoken about wanting to get back to the NBL level, wanting to get back to that NBL conditioning and shape to get those opportunities. I think this has really put him on the map.
So he's had some NBL experience in the past. Do you feel like there is a role for him at that level?
He's a specialist. And again, at 6'9", it's very rare to have this sort of shooting ability. If a team is looking for a bit of a stretch shooting threat, Jack's the guy.
Is there anywhere you think he fits? Like, is there a particular location you think that he would work, a roster that he'd work with?
Yeah, I think he's the sort of guy, you think of a team like Tassie that needs a bit more of an offensive punch, just a bit more floor spacing. He's the guy that sort of fits the bill.
Well, 55 points, a record-breaking performance, and we caught up with him during the week.
Obviously I was never going for a record or anything. I had 3 points in the first quarter, so I wasn't on track for anything like that, but then just turned it on the second quarter, got going, got lucky, I hit a few shots in a row. The boys just kept throwing me the ball, so I just kept going. But yeah, I don't know, it's one of those games where just everything I threw up felt like it was going in. I felt like I was a chance every time I touched the ball, so just kind of kept going. Andrew kept drawing up plays for me and just kept it rolling. It was cool to get the 55 points, but at the end of the day we lost, so it wasn't enough. And yeah, that's the most important thing, to getting a win. So yeah, it sucked. The way we lost hurt as well. So it was just it was a bit of a bittersweet Sunday. Yeah, I mean, that's the goal. That's what I've been working my ass off for the last 2 years. I mean, I'm just trying to change my body, trying to get myself to an NBL level. So that's been the goal for the last, ever since I fell out of the league, really, just to try and get back. So I've been doing everything I can, week in, week out, to try and get back there. But yeah, right now I'm just focused on the Tigers. But yeah, that's definitely what I want to do.
You got to love it. The determination. He said he's been working his ass off for the opportunity. So fingers crossed that it comes your way, Jack. But 55 points is something very, very special. The NBL 1 rolls on, of course. The NBL 1 North kicked off last weekend. Our first game's up there in Queensland. Kyle Adnam, who we've known from a long NBL career, is playing for the Southern District Spartans. They played a Friday night standalone game against Logan, 110-109. It was an absolute barn burner, and it included this from Kyle Adnam to ice the game at the end. We know he's got big shots in him, Mick, and this was very, very nice.
Absolutely. Hit the go-ahead with about 9 seconds left. Just came off that hard on ball and was able to hit the big shot to top off a big game. 36 points from him.
Huge to have his kind of experience running around at that level.
Absolutely. Just seeing the veteran still getting it done at such a high level, doing so much in the NBL 1 setting. It's great to see his shot making. And I need a shout out as well, his backcourt teammate, Tamuri Wigness. We haven't seen him from a couple of years. There's been some big injury issues setting him back, but he was back on the court, hit 34 points of his own. So a really strong performance from both of them.
Yeah, so they had 70 between them, and then Zach Triplett, Callum Dalton and Matt Kenyon on the other team. So it was a really, really great game up there in the NBL 1 North. Great to see that Friday night standalone game between those two teams coming up trumps. Some news that wasn't so good coming not long after we recorded last week's show, unfortunately, that Georgia Amor is going to miss probably the next year or so with an ACL injury suffered at training camp for the Washington Mystics, of course the number 6 pick in the draft. This is a really, really tough break for a young star of Aussie hoops.
Yeah, such a devastating blow. We've spoken her up so much on previous episodes. We both love watching her play. Couldn't wait to see what she'd do at this level. They're really going to scramble to, sort of fill that void that she was going to have. But we've observed Georgia's sort of attitude through all this. You know she's going to attack her rehab. She's going to come back better than ever. So we wish her the best in her recovery.
Yeah, absolutely we do. We'll hit some WNBA stuff a little bit more in a moment, because there are some more Aussies doing good things in that neck of the woods. Speaking of Aussies, our 2 national teams have been in action this week. The first game in Adelaide Wednesday night as part of the Trans-Tasman Throwdown against New Zealand. Another game to come on the Sunshine Coast, and then we go to Hamilton on Sunday. But the Aussie team's got 2 wins in Adelaide to kick things off. It was the Opals over the Tall Ferns, first of all, 88-70. They were really challenged in this game. Mila Soa with 23 points. Steph Reid provided some great defence in the backcourt. And although New Zealand ran them close, the late game execution, the experience of Australia really showed out in the end.
That's right. It was surprising to see such a tight game for so long, but the 2 that you mentioned, Mila shot it so well from deep, really broke the game open with her 4 3-pointers. And Steph Reid getting it done on both ends. Her tenacity, defending the on-ball, creating those turnovers and leading to easy points really broke the game open.
Against an inexperienced New Zealand team too, she caused some real chaos, did Steph Reid. We know she's coming off a great NBL 1 performance, of course, championships overseas and that kind of thing. So the Opals made a winning start to their campaign, as did the Boomers. This one was a little bit closer run. They trailed at quarter time. They had some work to do to get back into this game. But DJ Vasiljevic, in front of his home fans there at the Adelaide Entertainment Centre, he put up 23 points, nailed a few big triples like this, and the Boomers got it done.
Yeah, he was taking some shots like he was playing at Diamond Valley or Frankston in this game, hitting some outrageous contested threes. He led from the front, clearly likes the rims over there. Elijah Pepper was doing his best DJ impression as well, got up 15 shots in 17 minutes, so he was letting it fly. He hit 5 threes of his own. And also Harry Wessels got the start, the St. Mary's big man. He's getting into his senior season in college. He put up 7 points, 8 rebounds, so fantastic to see the opportunity for him.
Yeah, and it's a real Dean Vickerman thing. Of course, he's coaching this team now as the associate head coach without Adam Caporn there. The fact that he doesn't mind throwing a little bit of a curveball in there occasionally, Dino, and starting Harry Wessels was certainly that.
It was fantastic to see. This game's not just for the Boomers to get over the line, but to see the experience, the blooding in of some of this fresh young talent. Harry did fantastic. I saw a couple of those hooks on the block. You saw the touch. He's got a big future ahead of him.
That he does. So the Boomers and the Opals in action again Friday up on the sunny coast, and then Sunday in Hamilton over in New Zealand. We look forward to seeing how they go, and of course we'll have all the wrap up here, and then you can check out basketball.com.au for all the action as it happens. You won't get better coverage anywhere than basketball.com.au for our 2 national teams. The draft combine is coming up as far as NBA goes. The lottery's just around the corner next week. That'll be very, very interesting to see how that shakes out for the teams at the top. But the draft combine list was published this week. As you can see, there's a few Aussies on this list. So Alex Condon, Tyrese Proctor, Ben Henschel, of course, from the Perth Wildcats, and then the 3 next stars in Tui, Zakarski and Ethan Almansa. So plenty of talent putting their name up for the NBA draft.
Yeah, it's always a good indicator. This is generally a reflection of who NBA teams want to see. Now, obviously, they're not going to make their minds up just from the combine, but it's an extra data point to sort of assess these guys.
We talked about Rocco Zakarski recently. He's such an intriguing prospect in this process. To think of where he was at the start of the year, what he showed last year, he had a little bit of a dip in his form this season, but I mean, we know what this guy can produce, and there is so much talent there, so much untapped potential even. If a team can harness that, he could be really scary.
That's right. And you think about this combine setting and you think about that P word, potential. That's what it's all about in the draft. If something Rocco's going to do well, it's measure up. You know, one thing I'm excited to see is his standing reach. At 18, it measured at 9'8". Now, the current best in the NBA is 9'9". That's Mark Williams. So some of these numbers are going to turn a few heads. They're going to think about, what is his defensive upside going to look like? And that might win a few teams over.
And you think about, second round picks. Teams are really keen to take flyers on these kind of guys.
You might as well. You can find fringe talents all over the place, the free agents, wherever. But someone with these unique, unteachable qualities, that's someone that you want to pick up.
And you put them into your system, you develop them, you put the time in, and who knows what might happen. Alex Tui's another that had a great season in NBL ranks, of course, second year as an X-star with the Kings. And he really came along this season, showed his maturity, became a really key part of that team for Brian Goorjian, and he's going to be another interesting name to watch.
He did, and kind of the antithesis of Rocco in a way. We talk about potential. Well, Alex was all about production. He had 2 fantastic seasons with Sydney, was really impactful in his minutes as well, and someone who, is going to measure up pretty well. But at the end of the day, it's not just the measurements, it's the skills, the intangibles, and the intelligence that he plays with as well.
He can pass the ball, he can shoot the ball, he can throw it down, which we've seen a little bit of as well. Do you think he is more likely to be like a second round or, a late pick, or is he the type that could potentially be signed to a training camp after the fact?
I'm feeling pretty optimistic he could pick up a second round pick in this draft. I think he has all the tools. He's shown that he's the sort of 2-way, versatile forward that all these teams like. And again, you take a flyer on someone, I think Alex has shown plenty.
Fingers crossed. So those 6 players at the NBA Draft Combine. There's more than that, of course, that have thrown their hat into the ring. Malik Lewis, Lockie Olbrich are 2 of those. Of course, coming out of Southeast Melbourne and the Illawarra Hawks. Olbrich coming off the championship. Lewis, a strong performance through the postseason with Southeast Melbourne. And we know what the man from Trinidad and Tobago can do. He is athletic. He is a voracious defender. And he is one who will have plenty of eyes on him.
Yeah, we saw the glimpses. He's very athletic, can defend multiple positions. I thought he was fantastic in his season with Southeast Melbourne. And the important thing to remember with this G League showcase camp that they're basically having, just because they weren't named to the Combine doesn't mean they may not eventually be on it. If they do really well here, a few standouts are going to get picked, particularly like Malik Lewis, and they could go on to showcase themselves in that setting as well.
And then you've got Lockie Olbrich, who he is very much a favourite of
Yes.
your 2 boys up the front here. And he has got all kinds of potential. He's a big game player as well, an NBL 1 Finals MVP. He did so well in that championship series with the Illawarra Hawks. He just seems like there's a lot to his game that we're yet to see as well.
Very unique skill set at 6'10". You spoke about him being a winner. He's proved that at every single level. But the ball skills, the ability to handle the ball in transition, to pass, his footwork underneath, there's a lot to like. It feels like he's a bit of an outside chance right now, but those skills could, really win teams over. So
draft lottery Monday, and then the combine still to come. Lewis and Olbrich doing their thing in Portland at the moment, so best of luck to all those in the process there. The WNBA is just around the corner too. We've had training camp, we're into pre-season games. We've seen Caitlin Clark hitting logo threes up in Iowa against the Brazilian team, which was all kinds of fun. And we've got some Aussies over there as well, so plenty of representation, some really good names, some really well-credentialed names on this list. You think of the likes likes of Beck Allen, Ezzie Jade, Alana Smith, unfortunately Georgia Raymore that we won't see this season. It's great to have, so many players. There's these ones and more that are all in the mix for WNBA roster spots.
Yeah, so many known commodities that we know are going to play a role this upcoming season. I'm really intrigued to see Jade Melbourne this season. Obviously, a silver lining of Georgia's injury is that Jade's going to be asked to carry a big offensive load in that backcourt position as well. And then Beck is someone that we're watching as she gets back to form as well.
Yeah, and if we can get the best out of Beck Allen, we know what a force she can be defensively. I mean, she's a WNBL Defensive Player of the Year, of course, but her length, her athleticism, they call her Spider for a reason. She is an absolute force out there, and if she can keep her body fit, having made the move from Chicago or to Chicago in the off-season, she could be a really nice pickup for them.
It's so great just to see her back on the court. Of course, she's had such a tough run with injuries over recent times. She's had about 10 minutes a game, just getting her feet wet in pre-season so far. Knocked down a 3 on her first possession, though. That must have felt really good.
So great to see Beck Allen back in WNBA mix, and to all those players, we hope that they can find their best and find their feet at the WNBA level. Let's check in on a couple of NBL free agents, never far away from our mind, the NBL, and some interesting developments in the last little while between James Bateman and the Brisbane Bullets. A bit like Ross and Rachel in Friends. They're on a break at the moment. They might get back together. We don't know. But they've sort of mutually parted ways for now, exploring their options. We know what this man can do at an NBL level, and at the moment, he's playing really well over in Spain.
Yeah, I'd love to see a bit of a reunion. We know what he can provide to the Brisbane Bullets, a fantastic outside shooter, and his form in Spain has been incredible, over 16 points a game. He hasn't played enough games to be on the individual leaders list, but if he was, he'd be 4th in scoring in the ACB. Incredible stuff from him playing at a really high level.
And of course, he had the hamstring injury that scuppered his season here. He had the 51 points for the Brisbane Bullets. Do you think he's more likely to go back there, or would there be other teams looking at what he can offer?
I think he's someone that can fit in a lot of different places. We saw that, maybe he wasn't the primary ball handler, someone like a Kendrick Davis or a PJC that dominates the ball, but is someone that can play off of another guard and shoot from outside a lot. He's perfect.
So do you think that's where he is best, as a secondary ball handler rather as that sort of point guard role?
Absolutely. He's probably not the same athlete or a guy that can break guys down off the dribble in the same way, but if he can sort of offset some other on-ball threats, that's the perfect role for him.
So keep an eye on James Bateman. That'll be a really interesting one to watch over the next little while. Staying up north, Tanner Groves, of course, he plied his trade with the Cairns Taipans in the most recent NBL season. Bit of foul trouble, bit of injuries. Team just never really got into a groove. But when he was out there, he played well, did Tanner Groves, and he's doing it for Nagasaki over in Japan. His NBL highlights really is pretty impressive, but there'd be teams looking at him as to whether, he fits with their roster too.
Yeah, super solid, super versatile. He scores from inside and from outside. He defends really solidly as well. He's doing fantastic things for Nagasaki right now. Again, the stats are modest. 8 points, 4 rebounds a game, but you know that he's shooting a really efficient clip, nearly 50% from the field, 40% from the three-point line, and he's someone that has playing alongside Jarrell Brantley and Filipino big man EJ Adu as well. So someone that's really able to complement a wide variety of player types and make a big impact in limited minutes.
And the shooting, for his size, the shooting numbers are pretty extraordinary. He doesn't take a lot of threes, but 8 points, 4.5 rebounds a game, 16 minutes, so he's not playing big minutes. But he's shooting at 45% from the three on that Japanese season. I'm probably, somewhere north of 2 to 3 attempts a game. For someone who's playing that 4 or 5, that's a really good rate.
Absolutely, and you think about the big men that we see in the NBL, they're not often the star players or the guys that are having to put up 20 and 10s every night. They're the complementary guys. So if he's someone that sort of fits the bill, again, you can have him pop out, hit those threes, he'll score inside. You can do a wide range of things. Like
the way that Tanner Groves operates, he'll be another intriguing name to keep an eye on in this NBL off-season. Let's say hola to our friends over in Puerto Rico with our weekly check-in in that part of the world. It's become a real feature here on Heat Check to head over there because there's a lot of NBL players doing really good things. Chris Golding is an interesting name. He's been playing with Ian Clark at Canberra-Hayhorse. Now, his team has just signed Jared Salinger, which was a throwback. I have not thought about Jared Salinger in at least 7 years, not even thought about him. He's just been signed by Chris Golding's team. Maybe it puts Chris Golding's spot in a little bit of jeopardy. He had a DNP in their most recent game against the Maiguez trio of Wardenberg, Doyle and Harrison. Where do you think this positions CG?
It's looking very precarious right now. Jared Salinger has just returned to full health and it looks like one of Ian Clark or Chris Goulding is going to have to go to make way for him. Now, Chris has been fantastic in his time. He's played 9 games, he's started all 9 of them. He's taken 69 threes in that time and hit 26 of them at about a 38% clip. So classic CG things from him. But if it's one or the other, it looks like CG. And he was listed day to day on the most recent injury report, so signs are sort of pointing in that direction.
And Ian Clark's been playing really, really well also. He's been absolutely balling, especially recently.
Yeah, shooting the three at a remarkable rate. And you think about what we've seen from them at Melbourne United over the past couple of seasons, that's a really tough decision to pick from the two of them.
Recently re-signed was Christian Doolittle out west for a number of years, and that's spurred him on to some really good form. He's been playing over at Gigantes in Puerto Rico, 12, 7 and 4. He's shooting 42% from 3 as well, 26 and 20 in his last couple of games. He's looking the goods again.
We heard Danny Mills talk about him recently. He said that he thinks he is sort of edging towards being a top 5 player on both ends of the floor in the NBL. And there's no doubt it's very exciting to see someone like Christian in his prime in the NBL, locked up for 3 years. Very exciting stuff. He's someone who's leading the rebounding, he's second in points, has over 4 assists a game. His versatility to score when needed, facilitate when needed. We know he defends at a high level. There's just so much to add to his game.
It felt like it took, and with imports it can. It takes them a season to really get with their feet under the desk, so to speak, in the NBL. His sort of back end of his second season was outstanding for the Perth Wildcats. Do you think he's got another level?
Absolutely. And, when you think that Bryce Cotton is omitted from this team next season, what a better opportunity to step up to the plate. I think we're going to see him look to be a lot more aggressive as a scorer, and those numbers are going to have a big uptick.
Let's finish a little bit close to home with a couple of players we wanted to highlight. Nick Stoddart, who was a DP with the Tasmania Jack Jumpers most recently. He's been playing for Ballarat in the NBL 1 South the last couple of years. Pretty extraordinary performance over the weekend. He had 41 points in just 25 minutes against Waverley. He plays with some real energy. We saw Scott Roth start him at times last season. From what we can tell, he's not contracted with the Jack Jumpers for next year, but he's putting his best foot forward to get another opportunity.
Yeah, well, we saw him do some great stuff with Tassie. He had 10 appearances. He started 4 as the result of some injuries, but did fantastic. I remember a 14-point performance he had. He lit it up from deep in the first quarter.
Throwing those little darts out there.
Absolutely, the lefty. So fantastic to see this performance. As you said, one of the most efficient stat lines that we've seen in so limited time as well.
Is he worth a look for an NBL team?
Yeah, I think if he continues playing like this, absolutely. He's someone who has proven himself in the limited NBL minutes he's got. It's always hard when they get a little bit older. I don't think he's eligible for a development player opportunity anymore. But he's someone, perhaps as a replacement player to sort of fill in the gaps and be a really reliable perimeter threat.
So keep your eye on Nick Stoddart and the Ballarat Miners. And finally, we welcome the return of Sam McDaniel this weekend. The reigning NBL 1 North MVP with the Brisbane Capitals, who won a title last season. He really sort of stepped his game up. He played 1 game for the Brisbane Bullets before his season was ended with a shoulder injury. He's going to be back in action very, very soon, which is great to see.
So good to hear that he's back to health. Someone that we haven't seen play since September 2024. He's someone who's one of the better two-way role players in the NBL. But in NBL 1, we get to see him do a little bit more. He was the MVP of North last season, someone that can go and get his own bucket a little bit as well. So I can't wait to see what he does. We
know he'll be back with the Brisbane Bullets. He feels like a big piece of what they're trying to do.
Absolutely. You can really overlook these role players, really impact guys that complement the star talent. Sam's someone who can lock guys up on the defensive end of the floor. He's a really reliable 3-point shooter and can go get his bucket occasionally when asked as well.
So hopefully the opportunity in the NBL 1 North, he can just continue to grow that game, because we know what he can do, as Mick said, on the defensive end. So, Sam, welcome back, and let's hope you can stay healthy. The heat has been checked for another week. Thanks for your company, Mick. Good to see you. All the best with your domestic basketball duties, and I hope to see one Jay Giddy suiting up for your team.
I'll be waiting to hear from you, Josh. Thank you.
We'll just wait for that phone to ring, Josh. Thanks for your company this week on Heat Check. Basketball.com.au for all the latest. We'll see you next week.